Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'll be going over the assets which I went over before. Just to start with, here's a trade disclaimer. Understand that everything shared in this video is for educational purposes only. It's just an opinion. It is not financial advice. So I would highly recommend you do your own research. So before beginning, just pause the video, read the disclaimer, and then we can start. Also, in order to support the channel, I have been trading for a while, just recently started doing YouTube videos. I have put some links underneath the video. It does help me out. Yeah, so let's start. So currently we'll start with the BTC chart, and we have the main channel, which we had from before. And at that moment in time, price was testing outside of that channel, the upper part of the bigger channel. We did have a smaller channel within that channel moving up, and we've effectively broken back in, and we are currently testing the golden pocket of that particular fib level, which is from this high to this low. So ideally, what I might expect today is potentially the price test the 786 level if it does carry on moving up. And if we stay in that path, there is a higher potential for the price to retest the 0.1 level, which is basically retest of the all-time high. And we do have a confluence with that, with the middle of the channel. So whether this occurs today, or even tomorrow or the day after, it is entirely possible, unless we reach a potential fib level where we may reverse. And one of the things I'll be looking at, which I'll go over right now, is if I go to the 4-hour chart, one of the important things I would want to look for is potential order blocks. And so currently, looking at this sort of level up to here, most of the order blocks are now filled. So if we do break up, technically this block over here, which would have been an order block, this as well, you're looking at potentially the price, that block becoming a breaker block. So what we can naturally expect is price to move up and then retest the top of the breaker block and then potentially move back up, and that would be very good. So effectively, what it's doing now is testing the top of the 618, which is nice. So if we move up even here to the 786 level or the 886 level, and then price comes back to test the golden pocket, what we're actually seeing is a test of the breaker block, or which was originally an order block, and that would be another nice area to re-long from. And then price could potentially then move up. If it does move up, what I'll be looking at is a target of ideally at that sort of point, starting with the 1.127. And one of the reasons why is, again, it depends on how long this takes. So this, you have a nice bit of confluence in the middle of the channel around here, and this could be, potential couple of days of nice bullish movement if we do catch that. And then if we do get it, then obviously I would then reassess, and then my next natural target would be a small pullback, potentially to test the high, or the previous, which at that point would become the previous all-time high, and the 0.1 level, and then potentially, if that holds, then to move up to the next level again. And at that sort of point, I would naturally target the higher end of the channel, which I'd be looking at around 1.1618, all the way up to 1.186. So that's what I'd be looking at for Bitcoin. Also, moving on, I can also look at ETH as well. For ETH, let's load that up. So what we have before is the chart that I drew with a potential line from the previous YouTube video where I expect price to potentially move. So if I load my fib levels, which is from this high to this low, currently you can see we've broken up the 1.1. We rejected here, retested on the 1.113 support, and now we're trying to break up potentially to 1.141. If we then get that, we then are effectively made an new all-time high, and then price, I would then naturally target around the 1618 sort of level, and I'll be looking for at that sort of point confluences with the fib and the trend-based fib also. And with the trend-based fib, you can see you have a nice bit of confluence on the 1618 and the 0.1. If you do get to that area, then I would then redo the chart, reevaluate, see if the current channel still fits, and if it does, then leave that channel. Don't recommend deleting old channels, as price can come back or retest the high or even the low of the channel, depending where we are. And that is shown by the previous BTC chart, where price broke above the channel and we tested the high of the channel as support. So I'd be looking at, again, sort of here as my ideal sort of target. So that's what I think of Ethereum. Moving on from Ethereum, we're looking at XRP. So on XRP, this is the channels that I've made originally on the daily chart. Let's load this up properly. So what we've got here is this. Let's make this red. So currently this particular channel, which was made, we can see price is starting to try break up. And ideally what we do want is for it to break up and get a close above it. And if we then do that, then we have a potential new channel forming, where I would expect price to potentially move in that direction. And in that sort of scenario, what I'd be looking at is, even though it's early to make this sort of channel, I'd look at something maybe along this line or along that line. Again, it depends on how price effectively reacts. So if I pardon me, let's do this. Let's use the correct point. So if I use this as a major sort of high point, so we got 1, 2, and that being the third. So if it does break up higher in this, so that would be a nice more parabolic move. If we don't choose that and the channel's pretty sort of tight, then I'd be looking at along the lines of this particular high, but that for me is too tight. There's again a possibility also using this high, but it all depends on how high the price moves. And what I'm looking for here in this sort of case is how price reacts. So it is a bit early to draw that sort of channel, but we can, if it does break above that, this would be a nice channel to trade. So the advantage of this is, if I did make this channel smaller, what you're looking at, from at this sort of level, this is effectively mirroring the smaller channel to a bigger channel, effectively. So it does make it a bit more, easier to trade. So if we move up, I definitely would want to take profits in the middle of the channel. I would also be looking at this area over here, because obviously you got the crossover of the two channels. But this is on the basis we stay outside, break out of the low smaller channel and stay outside of it. This was made on a different time frame. So again, it depends on if I'm looking at it like that. Sort of based on that, I would say it has broken. But from a candle point of view, we want the close to stay above. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for in terms of a channel, and then we're also looking at potential sort of targets. So my previous fib pulls from this high to this low. Again, I expect maybe a rejection here. It's quite possible. But if we do break above this, you know, we do have a nice sort of area here to the 0.1 where we are converging on multiple fib areas, well, one fib area and two channels. And if I then pull, say, a trend-based fib, which I pulled before, so let's hide the previous fib just to make it easy. You can see over here from a trend-based fib, it is at a resistance, right? So if it does break this, and then we load up the other fib level, which is over here. Let's hide the trend-based fib. So you can see this 618 and this 886 can be a nice, good target if it breaks through, you know, to hold. And then again, moving up from there, if we go further up, the other thing you can look at is, I would naturally target this sort of zone again, the 1.127 and the 886 again, which is closer to the middle of the bigger channel. So that would be a lot sort of nicer. So again, it's approximate. You know, no one can work out the lows or the exact highs to, you know, every single time. However, if I take profit around this level, my TP2 might be here and my TP1 possibly here, then, you know, my trade becomes very good. And on that basis is when I will TP1 here, ideally would want to put my stop loss in, well, break even, you know, and effectively at that sort of point, removing risk from that trade. So that's my plan on, you know, XRP. Moving on to BIT. BIT is currently moving in the direction which it was, you know, shown on the previous video, and you can see nicely we got support on the 0.133, and we've broken through the 236 and just tested the 382. If we break that level, you're looking at a beautiful target of the 618, and that would be perfect. So if we go to the 4-hour chart, you can see this is playing out nicely. What I will also do is I will look at the normal, you know, trend-based, well, normal fib retracement. Let me load them up from last time. So in this case, we've got from this high to this low, and we can see we've broken up the local 0.1, and we're just sitting under the 133. So if we take that on again with the trend-based fib, you know, we've got nice bit of confluence both here and each level as we move up. So this 1618, this particular area is still my, you know, longer term goal. If I remove this fib and remove the trend-based fib, we look at the other bigger fib pull we've done. So what you can see, we've broke out the 0.2 level, which is basically, this is the 1 to 1 from here to here, and we're currently testing that as support. So which is effectively it's tested the previous all-time high level as support. So which is good. So if we can hold that and move up again, it just only works as part of my plan of the price moving up higher. So moving on from BIT, let's look at SHIB. I've just drawn these lines just to see how other people will look at them. But again, for the moment, if people are trading this as a triangle, it's still within the triangle. Again, it depends whether you're drawing wick to wick or whether you're drawing it close to close. So if I remove these and then load up the channel and other fibs properly so you can see. So let's remove this and then let's add the channels. So current channel is here, so which is still very good. You know, price can still come down here and bounce up, which is nice. And then we have another downward channel which we originally had, which I showed in the previous YouTube video, and you can see we've broken that relatively strong, and we are trying to hold here. While we're holding here, what we want to do is take a fib level. So we've already seen this level from here from this high to this low, showing, it's broken below the 618 and now just above the 0.5. But what we want to look at is this price holding here due to a potential fib resistance? So if we pull it from the low to the high, you can see it's at the 0.5. So there is a possibility of this still coming down and testing the 618. And again, that would be a nice area for a bounce. If it does bounce from here, then you can have that potential sort of move up. Again, this is if it does go up. And if it does go up, you have to then also understand that you've got various levels of resistance as well further up. And as natural, people would want to take profits again, potentially closer to the previous all-time high if it does reach it. Okay, so moving over from SHIB to Link. So Link currently is looking well. If I go to the daily chart, again, this is a chart from the previous setup from the previous video. So you can see it's bounced off nicely and we're moving up slowly and we've broken through to 618. And I'd be sort of targeting the local 786 at least. The other areas you've got to look at is you can look at the other fibs which I've drawn from before. So here's the trend-based fib. So this is from the low to the high to the low. And we're currently sitting at the 0.5, which again has been acting as a resistance, you can see. And if we do break this, you have a nice target to at least the 618, which is again the center of the channel. If we take that into perspective, let's look at some other fibs. So from this high to this low, which you can see from this particular fib and the previous trend-based fib, the 886 and the 618 to meet close to the middle of that channel. As you can see, is very close. So you've got a nice bit of confluence there. The other thing you can also look at is there are some other fibs that I've pulled. So this was one of the local ones from this low to that high. So what you can see is trying, to break up. So again, because this is the 1-to-1, and the top part of the 1-to-1 level is very close to that 618 and 886, so you got more confluence again. So if it does reject, that would be ideally where you want to take some profit. If it does break above it, and then obviously I will be targeting higher, and I'll show you that in a moment. The next fib that I have, not this one, done this. Done this. So what I'll be looking for if it does break this level, so let's do this as a negative. Okay, so you can see the 618, which is quite nice, line up on the top of the channel. I'm not expecting price to just naturally just goes, zip up. If it does move up, test here. If it does break, then there's a natural retest, I would say, on the top of the channel. So the middle of the channel and top of the 0.1 0 level. So if I now add the trend-based fib, that retest will be nice because it will also be in confluence with retesting the golden pocket area before trying to move up. And if we do move up, you've got this nice 786 level in confluence with the 302 moving up, and again the 0.1-to-1 ratio of from this point here to here pushing all the way up here. So that would be very good as a target. So again, the important thing to see is what happens once the price reaches this particular middle of the channel, this 618, and then we'll take it from there. That's what I think on Link. Moving on from Link, we'll look at SXP. So SXP, again, I've got multiple channels on simply just to see. Again, it's based on whether I'm scalping or whether I'm swing trading or day trading. So based on this, locally, the smaller time frame channel, which was, I believe, on the 4 hour, You can see it's nicely broken up. We're above it. We're above the 0.236, and we are in this particular channel which was established. So as potential move up. So if we do move up, a nice area to target is, I would love to target, is the sort of 302 level. And one of the reasons being is you have a order block there also. If we do break above this, then I'd expect price to retest. I don't necessarily expect price to move in this channel in that sort of angle. It can come down over time, because one of the things channels don't keep into perspective or mind is your how long it will take over a period of time. So it can still move up to the target of the 618, but it just can take a bit longer. And that would be a nice trade, effectively from where we are right now at $2.49. So if it does move up from here to, around $3.4 to $3.6, it becomes a very nice trade. But we need to break past some of these resistances. The other thing you can look at, if I remove some of these channels, is I can try to do a nice, let's remove everything, go on to the daily and look at a trend based fib to see how that potentially may react. So say this low to the high to that low. I can use this low, but that low is nicer. So you can see we're currently retesting the 0.236. The 618 is closer to the higher side, so if I load up the normal fib, the retracement, so you can see the levels are pretty close. But if I then take the trend-based fib, pull it over here to this low and exclude this wick as an alternative view, again, then you can potentially get more confluence on these levels over here. So if I was entering this trade, that's what I'd be looking at. Okay, and again, if we then add the channels to it, let's load the bigger channel here. So this would be the ideal area if you haven't taken profit, to definitely take profit. If you don't, there is a risk that it rejects over here and then comes back down to potentially test the 382. And what I mean by that is price moves up in this sort of direction, maybe do this, maybe break up, and then fails on its first attempt, and then retries multiple times. And then if it does, potentially on the third time, it could break up. And at that sort of point, you again test this area over here. And, trying to potentially break the previous high. So, again, that would be nice. Again, I don't really expect price to move in that angle or design, but that's what I would be planning. If I was in the swing trade, I would expect to take maybe, some profits here, re-add again here, take more profits over here. My stop loss then would be moved around here, and then see if it goes up any further. If I see any sort of rejection, could entirely close my trade. Again, it's up to you. Okay, moving on from SXP. Now let's look at Tezos. So what we can see from Tezos is we're currently still below the bigger channel. We're still in this downward sloping channel. We have rejected the middle of that channel, the downward sloping channel. Let's make this a different color. So let's do it red. So if this was to break up and go back within the channel, I would be, how would I look at this? So let's look at some other fib levels. So let me just hide some of these horizontals. Let me hide this particular fib level. So, and hide this channel. So if I was gonna assume that is a low, Again, it's too early for me to assume. And that is also another potential. Again, it's too early for me to sort of predict where it could go in terms of a channel. But what I do believe in, and what I do look for, is this particular fib level. So if we break above this, and that is breaking above the 236 also, that would be my natural target to that 618. And then if I was then to do a trend based fib from this low to the high, as such, you have nice confluence, on the 382 level, nice confluence on the 618 area. Understand, confluence does not mean it has to be on the dot, because you can't work it. You'll never know on the dot. As long as it's very close to that sort of price area, for me, that's confluence. Okay. What I will do next. So currently, like I said, with this, we need to break above this for me to think about taking a long position. And if I did, again, I'll take some profits over here. And if it does break through, and then potentially retest the 382 as support, then I can add back in. And this is to manage risks. And my targets naturally will be up to the 618 level. However, keep in mind, you've got a nice big order block here. So 0.5 could be an easy level to potentially reject. So you have to keep that in mind. And what I mean by that, if it does fill here and does not break above, then I expect price to potentially do something like go up to here and then come back down. And then if it does break through that block, which over here, it's fulfilled the order block, it could retest it a few times, but ideally you'd expect it to come back down. And if on the move up, it's built a bullish order block around this sort of level, then we can see a nice bounce off that area, which could be closer to the 382 level, then to try to retest this. And if it does retest this, this is where you'd have some heavy resistance. And as it breaks through, if it does break through, then I'm looking at targets closer to the 786. Otherwise, there is a higher chance we wick up and then come back down to this area. That's just my assumption based on this setup. Just to quickly go through, I can go through some of the checks via the indicators also. So that would be, let's do this one. So one of the nice things you can see over here, Titan IG is breaking up 0.1. We've crossed over the 0 line, and also the bullish volume has kicked in as well. So I expect a nice move up. If I look on the weekly, we're still bullish. So based on that, I should naturally expect some push up, and as the shorts are decreasing. For ETH, on the daily, we've never really broke below. The shorts are dropping, so I expect a nice potential move up as well. And that's on the daily side. Weekly, if you look at it, yes, the shorts are dropping. The longs have dropped as well, but we are still moving up. If you look at XRP, XRP for the moment showing that the longs on the weekly are less than the shorts. But if we then look at the daily side, what we want to look at is we can see we are still, we've broken up from here, so which looks really good. Okay, for BIT, on the daily we're still bullish. On the 4 hour, you can see as we broke up again, which is perfect. So for SHIB, currently, on the 4 hour, we've broken below, which is as per. So if it does test the 618, that's what I potentially expect. And then it could, test it and then switch over. Daily wise, if you look at it, it's still bullish. It is moving down, but it's still bullish and down. But the bullish momentum is less. Weekly is still pretty high. So, but I would say still be careful considering the type of coin this is. Looking at Link, you can see on the weekly side, we are broken through, which is beautiful. RG in the middle has broken through, which is perfect. This is actually would be a very nice long, simply because how we're moving on the weekly and on the daily side. We haven't actually gone below since the 14th. So if you've been holding on since then, you still be in nice good profit. Looking at SXP, you can see SXP broke through here. How we're looking at on the 30th. So on the weekly, we are looking still bullish, not bullish yet, but we could potentially easily be bullish if it does cross. And again, obviously, weekly will be slower potentially by next week. It could have broken up, and if that does occur, only confirms our plan. And again, which I haven't mentioned before, the stock. This is the Titan stock, so we could potentially push up, from the way it looks. If you look at Tezos, again, the bearish volume is higher on the weekly, but then, on the daily side, what we're looking at, it hasn't broken out. So this particular plan could only work simply if it breaks above, and if it does break above, we need the bullish volume basically. Going down to the 4 hour, let's see how it looks. On the 4 hour, it looks nice, but I'd still be careful. And you can see if anybody got in, that was nasty. And that's it for this video. Thank you again, for tuning in. Please support the channel. Please like and subscribe. There is a link to my Discord as well. Also, I do Zooms in the Discord where you can ask me questions. If you are trading on any sort of leverage exchange, I do recommend Bybit is what I use. So if you do use my link, it helps me out. Otherwise, I only recommend it on the basis you use it if you are, number one, experienced at trading leverage. I don't recommend it using high leverage, because understand it can easily liquidate your account if you don't know what you're doing. In the future, I will go over some videos talking about risk management and various different things. However, I do have a VIP area in my Discord where I discuss and have a lot of training materials. Okay, thank you very much, and have a good day, good night. And again, just read the disclaimer one last time. Again, everything shown, it was just my opinion, not financial advice. And do your own research, and I will be making another bonus video later on with what the VIPs have requested. Thank you again, take care, and goodbye.